Welcome back to Dial Remodels. In this video I'm going to be carrying on or starting work on the Alfa Romeo Giulia from Alfa Model. So unlike previous video builds where I've done the videos in sequence as to let's do the interior, do the bodywork, do the chassis and such, I thought I'll do it a bit differently on this one, and I'm going to start with all of the carbon bits and get those prepped. So as you can see here, I'm just going through working out which pieces I want to be in carbon. As you can see, there's bits from various aspects of the car, so you've got interior of the seats, the steering wheel, the side skirts, the front spoiler, rear spoiler and various other bits. So that's all of the parts that I need for now. As you can see, there's, as I said a minute ago, there's a few bits from different areas of it. So I've got the seats, got the spoilers, side skirts, steering wheel, the V for the front and dash door panels and the centre console. So the first thing I'm going to do now that I've got all of the pieces that I need is create the templates. So just using a bit of masking tape, and I'll start off with the back seat. Obviously the seat is bigger than this piece of tape, so I'm going to use multiple pieces of tape, but we'll start off with this one and then carefully just put it into the creases or the edges where I want to cut. So if you're creating your own templates, it's important to try and get them as flat as possible to how the decal will sit, because the decal will then go down better and be more accurate. So I'm just going to swap the blade over on my knife, so I've got a nice sharp brand new blade, and then I won't tear the masking tape and I'll have a nice clean cut. So just starting in the middle there, just to go round, not for any particular reason. If you've not got a sharp blade and you come in from the edge of the masking tape, you could risk pulling the masking tape and not sitting, but like I said, this is a new blade, so I don't have that problem. But it's just easier to do it in sections. There you go. That's the first piece off. I'm going to use some smaller masking tape or smaller thickness masking tape now for the side pieces, just so I'm not wasting the bigger tape because it's not necessary. You possibly could get away with doing two pieces of thicker tape, but I prefer to do it this way and manage it a bit easier. But I need to make sure, you see that I'm just readjusting it, that it actually overlaps the other piece of tape, and then it doesn't fit to the edge. So it's just making sure that you get it so that it touches the other piece so that it covers properly, so that you've got one piece for the mask and it also covers the bit that you actually want to mask off. So there we go, that's just where I need it to be. So as before, I'm just pushing it into the edge just with my nail, just so I've got a nice sharp edge for the blade to run against. And then once I've done that, I can then get the knife and just go around it again. Just keeping it to the line that's there. I did scribe these a little bit in advance just to make it a bit easier for seeing where the knife needs to run, because it is quite a soft edge out of the kit. So if you're something else to bear in mind if you're making your own templates or your own masks is where your cut line is going to be, and can you actually see it once it's got the masking tape on. And on to the next side. So same process again for this, just overlap on the existing tape and then just make sure that it goes round enough that it's going to cover the part that I want to actually get decaled. Which that just about does, so that's okay. If you haven't got nails like mine which need cutting, you could just use a cocktail stick or different kind of tool that's not sharp, just to push into that edge as well. I'm just checking that it's going where I want it to. And now it's gone out of focus. So unfortunately, because I'm looking at what I'm doing, I'm not looking at the camera. It easily happens on that, I'm afraid. So then the last bit on this seat that needs cutting is just down that edge, and then I can remove that mask. So I'm just using some pointy tweezers just to catch the corner, and then see as it's lifting up there from the back, which we want to avoid so we can keep it as one. So I'm just going to lift the other side, and then I can lift it up from the centre. And then we have one complete mask for a seat, or a seat back. So I'm not going to do all of the templates on camera now, I was just showing you that one as to how I do it. So next step is painting. So I'm using, as you saw, Mr. Surfacer Primer to do these. So when the kitchen towel doesn't get in the way, do the steering wheel. As you can see, the mirrors have already been primed. I can't actually remember why I did them separately, but I think I'd used a different primer possibly. But yeah, the steering wheel with the Mr. Surfacer, because it's got fine details that I don't want to lose, and then the same for these other pieces. So I think for the mirrors and other things, I used the 2K primer, which is thicker. But doing that on these, I'd lose some detail, which I didn't want to do. But as long as your pieces are cleaned and prepped properly, you should be fine using this primer. No issues with it. Now onto the dashboard, which again's got some fine details in it that I want to keep, so using the slightly thinner primer. So once the first coat had a bit of time to cure off, I just move on to the second coat. This is about 5-10 minutes, and then just make sure I've got good coverage all over and there's no bits that have been missed. Some of the parts, like the door panels, didn't actually record the first coat going down for some reason. My camera was playing up a little bit, so this is just the second coat going on now. So once everything is primed and dried, move on to the paint, which is Zero Paint's semi-gloss black. So again, starting with the seats and do the seat base, which aren't going to be seen, so I'm not going to carbon those, but I am going to paint black just to, they need some paint on them. I know some people will choose to carbon it just for consistency purposes, but even though it's not visible, but personally I don't want the extra work and hassle of it, and like I said, it's not going to be seen, so I'll skip it. So giving it a nice even coverage of the black, just so if something gets damaged on the decal or something like that, a bit shows through, you've not got grey primer underneath. So technically you probably could get away with putting the decal straight over the primer, but it's just good practice. This fun bit now, just trying to do the covers for the door handle pull surrounds. So again, I'm not painting all of the door panel with this paint, because this is just for the bits that are going to be carboned, and then everything else will be painted properly afterwards. The same again for the centre console, it's only this top part that is carbon on the real one, so that's all I'm going to paint with this paint for now, and just that little edge on that side. So onto the decals, I'm using high def weave quad colour carbon from Scale Motorsport. As you can see, it's got a lot more texture and pattern to it than the standard one they do. It's the first time I've used this decal, so I'm interested to see how it works and behaves, and if there's any differences or variations on it. But as you can see there, it's got a much finer pattern to it, which looks to me more realistic. So start off with is a big panel here, which isn't going to be used in this video, but it's the first thing that I cut off the masking tape, so I thought I'll leave this bit in. So you can see I've got the template there for the roof, and then I'm just carefully cutting around it with the brand new blade and the knife. I've put the masking tape on the back. To a degree it doesn't really matter, some of it I do on the front, some of it I do on the back, but if I can, if it's symmetrical, I'll put it on the back, just because then peeling it off is easier and potentially less damage to the decal. If you put it on the front, with it being sort of close to the edge, I have had it before now where I started to pull at the decal trying to get it off, so it's just my preference to do it on the back to avoid that. So there we go, that's the first cut out for it. So next up is the seat back. Once I come onto camera, there you go. So again, this one's on the front now, even though it's symmetrical, just for inconsistency purposes in what I just said. But it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really matter too much. You just got to be careful when you remove it. But as you can see, I'm just going slightly wide with the masking tape, just to make the removal of it a little bit easier on the roof, because it's very, very specific on the width of it, and I wanted to cut right to the line. It's just easier to do it on the back. So I'm just going off camera a little bit, just concentrating on what I'm doing. So there you go, that's the first seat back done. And then I'm just going to use the tip of the knife just to pick at it, just so I can then remove that and put that over there just to keep it safe. And then I can move on to the next lot of decals that I need to cut. So this time it's the front splitter that goes under the front bumper. So again, what I did with this, rather than cutting out like I did on the back of the seat, I just drew around it with a pen, and then I've got the whole template that I can cut around, and just makes it a little less work to create the template then. So there's a few I did like this, a few I did like the seats. It depends on the part that you're doing and how flat or shaped it is as to what you can get away with, really. So just play it by ear really for each piece. So that's that one piece done, which is going to sit over there nicely. So I'm just looking now which mask I want to do next. So I thought if I do the back of the seat rest, the second one of those, and then I can line it up with that, rather than trying to put a flat piece in, and then it's just maximising the use of the decal sheet to prevent wastage. So this is the second one of those coming up. Much the same as the last one really, just carefully cutting around the tape. And that's those two bits done. So there's two matching backrests that I can put over there safely. So rather than showing you all of the decals being cut out, which is boring, I'll skip that bit and I'll move on to the application. So the rest of the piece is always the same basically. Create the templates, cut them out on the decals, and then can move on to the application. So just putting some water on the back of that, and then we can start positioning it. So I'll speed this little bit up, just because I've done another video on decaling, on carbon decals, so I don't need to go into depth in how it all goes, but I just thought I'll show this one on this video for anybody that's not seen that other one. So it's just a case of carefully and methodically and slowly working it. I always go from the centre out and then work out any air bubbles as I go to try and get it as flat as possible. So I'll start the second one as well at the same time, and then just work them together. You can make sure it's in the right position, and then check that the sides are going to sit where they want it to, because it's an accurate template. In the past I've always sort of oversized them and then cut off the excess, but I'll try something different on this one. So just needs a little bit more patience and a little bit more care to get it exactly where it needs to be. So just with a bit of set and solution, then I can work it down. So they're put to one side, and then I'll move on to this piece. So you can see on that top one there's a bit of a step in it for the side bit, and then the handle pieces after I painted it, I thought if I scribe them, which is why there's a white line around them, and then it makes it easier for masking off later down the line for colour change. Just an afterthought that I had after I've done that, for anyone that picks up on that. And then just work this one in. Yeah, there's not much to say, it's just the same as the last one. Just apply the decal, take out the excess moisture, and then just let the scent solutions do their job. I was saying before about doing the masking templates, I realised on the dash I'd actually done it on the wrong side, so I had to cut another decal out, or cutting it from the other side so that it was accurate, because it was not sitting covering it all, hence the step there. Just being careful on the centre console, because it's got a section in the middle that I don't want to have the decal sink into. I want the decal to be sat flat around it, so I'm just taking care on that one to not try and get it to conform, which is the opposite of what you'd normally try and do on the carbon decal, so it just takes a bit of extra care to get that right. So once all the decals finished, I can move on to clearing them. So I decided to use the 2K diamond clear from Zero Paints for these, the same as I use on the bodywork, just no particular reason, just that it makes it easier to just do it all in a batch. So just spraying it down as I would do on the bodywork. So initial tack coat to get it to bite, and then we'll move on to the main coat afterwards. I'll just run through all of these. So again, with the clear coat, I'm only doing the bits that have been decaled, not bothering with all of it, because I'll start losing detail on it, and that's the only bit that needs to be shiny, so I don't need to do the rest of it. But that's it, that's all of the carbon pieces now finished and clear coated, so I can now move on and start prepping them properly and doing the rest of it. So thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you next time.